Captain Jake Turner had seen his fair share of dangerous situations, but nothing had ever prepared him for the chaos that awaited him in the dark corners of space. A veteran pilot with a reputation for getting his ship out of sticky situations, he had never been in a crash like this before. His cargo ship, the Maverick, was designed to withstand the harshest of conditions, but as the asteroid field surrounding them grew denser, even the Maverick couldn't keep up. The ship shook violently as debris pelted the hull, and alarms blared through the cockpit. Jake's hands gripped the controls tightly, his eyes scanning the instruments in a desperate attempt to stabilize the ship, but it was no use. The asteroid had punctured the ship's engine, and there was no escaping the crash now. The impact was swift and unforgiving. The next thing Jake knew, the Maverick was spinning out of control, and the stars around him turned into blurry streaks of light. With a final, jarring thud, the ship hit the ground with a sickening screech of metal against rock. The world outside was a blur. The planet below, nothing but dust and wreckage. Jake's body was slammed against his seat as the crash threw him against the restraints, and then everything went black. When he finally regained consciousness, Jake's head throbbed with pain. His vision was blurry, but he could make out the shape of the cockpit in disarray. Smoke billowed from the damaged systems, and sparks flew from short-circuited wires. He tried to move but felt a sharp pain in his side. His fingers grazed the controls, struggling to push a button that would release his seatbelt. The mechanism was jammed. With a grunt, Jake managed to pry himself loose from the harness. His feet hit the floor with a heavy thud as he stumbled, disoriented, out of the cockpit. The sound of crackling flames echoed through the wreckage, and smoke filled the air. He winced as the sharp smell of burning metal stung his nostrils. "Come on," he muttered to himself as he pushed through the thick smoke and debris. His feet slid across the floor, debris scattered everywhere. The ship had crashed into a rocky terrain. The edges of the ship crumpled into the jagged landscape. Jake's heart raced as he tried to make sense of the wreckage. There was no time to waste. He needed to find a way to escape. As he moved deeper into the ship, Jake heard something, faint at first. It was the sound of soft, shallow breathing, almost too faint to be real. He paused, listening carefully, trying to identify the source of the noise. His eyes searched the darkness, narrowing in on the pile of wreckage. Through the smoke and rubble, he saw a figure. At first, it was hard to tell what it was. But then, the form shifted, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was a woman, an alien woman, lying among the wreckage. Her skin shimmered in the dim light, translucent and glowing faintly like the soft glow of a distant star. Her body was frail, and her chest rose and fell with each labored breath. Jake's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure if she was human or not, but she certainly wasn't from Earth. Her features were exotic, her hair long and silver, her face delicate and otherworldly. The injuries were clear. Deep gashes and bruises marred her body, her clothes torn and her breathing shallow. She was clearly struggling to stay conscious, but she was alive, barely. Jake hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. It wasn't that he was afraid. Jake had dealt with all kinds of dangerous creatures and hostile situations during his years of service. But this was different. He had never encountered an alien before, let alone one that was so vulnerable, so fragile. Still, there was no time to waste. He crouched beside her, his hands shaking as he gently reached for her wrist, checking for a pulse. Her skin was warm, almost feverishly so, but her pulse was faint. "Easy now," Jake murmured softly, trying to comfort her. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing deep violet eyes that looked at him with a mixture of fear and confusion. Her lips parted, and she whispered something. Something in a language Jake couldn't understand. She tried to raise her hand toward him, but her strength failed her, and her arm collapsed back to the ground. "Shh, easy," Jake said again, his voice calming. He needed to get her help, but the ship's communications were down, and the planet seemed barren with no signs of civilization. Jake quickly scanned the area, his eyes finding a medical kit among the wreckage. It was a long shot, but it was all he had. He scrambled over to it, his body aching from the crash, and ripped the case open. He took out some basic first aid supplies and rushed back to the alien woman. Her breathing was slower now, more shallow, and Jake could feel the weight of the situation pressing on him. He had no idea who she was or where she came from, but one thing was clear. She was in trouble, and it was up to him to save her. As he applied a makeshift bandage to a gash on her leg, the alien woman's eyes fluttered open once more. This time she spoke again, her voice weak and soft. I am Princess Lyra?" she said, her words barely audible. Jake blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. Princess? He hadn't expected that. Not from an alien, and certainly not from someone who seemed so fragile. "Princess Lyra?" he repeated, raising an eyebrow. "What happened to you?" Lyra's eyes fluttered closed again, and she took a shallow breath. "My ship."
"It was attacked," she managed to say. They destroyed it."
I'm the last of my kind." Jake's brow furrowed as he looked at her. She wasn't just an alien. She was royalty. That fact seemed even more surreal in the middle of this wreckage. He glanced around at the ruins of the Maverick. The situation was bleak.
"I'll get you out of here," Jake promised, his voice filled with determination. But as he looked down at her, Jake realized something.
This wasn't just about helping a wounded stranger. He had just found the last member of a royal bloodline, stranded in a foreign galaxy. The weight of her presence began to settle on him, and Jake had the feeling that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't even begin to imagine. With no time to lose, Jake carefully scooped Princess Lyra into his arms and began to move. As he trekked through the wreckage of the ship, he could feel her weight growing heavier, but he kept his pace steady, determined not to let her down. The silence of the barren planet surrounded them. The only sound the steady rhythm of his footsteps as they echoed in the desolate landscape. Jake glanced up at the sky. The stars above offered no comfort, only a reminder that they were stranded in a place far from home. What had started as a routine cargo run had now turned into something much bigger. He was no longer just a captain on a mission. He was the guardian of a princess, the last hope of an alien race, and the keeper of a secret that could alter the course of the galaxy itself. Jake didn't know what awaited him, but he knew one thing for sure. His life had just taken a turn he never saw coming, and whatever the future held, he had made a promise to Princess Lyra, and he intended to keep it.